I would like to thank the organizers for this very inspirational initiative that the Tzu Foundation has had, and that makes so much sense with the work and the experience that Tzu has in relief to focus and to put attention on disaster risk reduction. So congratulations for that. And thank you to the organizers and all the volunteers for making this happen. It's very inspirational. I had a different presentation before meeting with Master Chen Yen. After an hour and a half talking with her, I decided that I was going to give it another focus, more in her honor and in line with her thoughts and what she's trying to teach to the world, because she's so inspirational. So first, something that we always say when we work on preparation and emergency or disaster risk reduction is that there is not such a thing as a natural disaster. A disaster is not natural, it's not normal. What is natural is the hazards, climatic hazards. But a disaster should not occur. We should be prepared. Our communities should be prepared and empowered to address these natural hazards. So this is something that, working in the Caribbean with the World Health Organization, we see these natural hazards coming every single season, and now the season is longer and longer, and we need to be prepared at least when in places where we know that this is happening all the time and is recurrent. So some of the speakers have been mentioning the 3 agendas that we have after 2015. The Sustainable Development Goals, the Sendai Framework Convention for Disaster Risk Reduction, and I will focus a little bit on the climate change Paris Convention and the framework that is preparing the reduction of emissions, and how we combine this with disaster risk reduction and sustainable development. So the Paris Treaty is trying to advise, first was saying let's keep temperatures below 2.0 degrees above pre-industrial times, and they wanted to limit the temperature to 1.5. To tell you the truth, I don't know, I don't think even why this report on 1.5 was written down, because we don't see that this is going to be possible. But anyway, we have hopes, and there are ways to make it happen. But if we have to reduce in a 50% the annual emissions between now and 2030, and to reach a net zero by 2050, we will have to limit the greenhouse emissions to the same levels that the trees, the soils, and the oceans can absorb naturally, okay? Beginning between 2050 and 2100. That means that we have to have enough trees. That means that we have to have a healthy soil, and we have to have oceans that are not acidic and they are not anoxic. So that was what inspired me to focus more the presentation on nature-based solutions. So there have been some presentations that were looking into the trend in the type of disasters per natural hazards, and we can see that in certain areas we are going to see more frequently and recurrent storms and floods. From the point of view of the World Health Organization and how you have to prepare, because the World Health Organization usually works in preparation, in the development of plans for emergency and response and disaster risk reduction. And we lead the work of the health sector in collaboration with the Ministries of Environment, with the Ministries of Agriculture, with the groups of emergencies, with civil society. We work a lot with with chemicals, contaminations, and training groups on issues that are unexpected. But we train them regardless. We do it in advance. We know that it will happen. One day or another, it will happen. So the projected increase of people exposed to floods in 2030 compared with 1970, and this is what I was mentioning yesterday, it will be, the people will be double in Southeast Asia. But if we look, it's the same situation. It's very little. You cannot see it very well, but it's more than a double of the people that are now exposed will be exposed in the Caribbean. And for my experience in the Caribbean, it's already very, it's going beyond the limits for adaptation. Not to say anything in Africa, that could be triple, and they don't have the necessary experience to address this. And Tutsi has been supporting all the relief actions in Mozambique. And it will, now we will have to see how we focus on reducing the risk. Another situation is the so-called slow onset events. Those are recurrent droughts and desertification. This is happening every day, and it's silent. That will not be in the news anymore. Nobody wants to hear about this. It's, it has been happening for so many years. 25 years of recurrent droughts in Ethiopia. Nobody cares anymore. But this is what is happening. And we have civil society and we have groups, Action Against Hunger, that they, this kid is perfectly fine now. But, it's because we have groups like you doing disaster relief, but these slow, silent disasters, okay? So the predictions of the IPCC for water scarcity and for the people that will be suffer hunger are higher than the commitments of the Sustainable Development Goals in reducing hunger. That's SDG 2. And this is leaving or resulting in food insecurity and lack of livelihoods, is leaving us into mass migrations. And as our colleague was talking yesterday, we are facing with conflict and problems in refugee camps. Those are environmental refugees, those are resettlement camps, but at the end of the day, they look like a refugee camp. And it was very interesting. Probably you have seen it, but I think it was this week. The Global Commission on Adaptation published this Adapt Now, a global call for leadership on climate resilience. So it was wonderful when I was reading just the summary. And they were suggesting, and I recommend you, to read the report, that investing 1.8 trillion globally in 5 areas from 2020 to 2030 could generate 7.1 trillion in total net benefits. So I was like, okay, let's see the areas. And it was, it was perfectly logical what we had been talking in this field for many years. First, strengthening early warning systems, making new infrastructure resilient. In your cases, you may focus in other infrastructure. In the case of health, we focus on resilient health systems. And Tutsi has been doing a lot on resilient health systems. Resilience that looks, it's sustainability and resilience. Like it could be, their hospitals are the most sustainable hospitals in the world. Another focus has been in improving dryland agriculture and crop production, and that means soil health. Protecting mangroves, we have been trying to protect them for so many years, and with many handicaps due to aquaculture and unsustainable development. And the other issue that has been highlighted was making water resources also more resilient. And when you see the recommendations of the report, they are focusing on nature-based solutions that could be, like at the city level or urban level, what we are doing in Los Angeles with 3 people, the health sector, UCLA and other groups are collaborating with 3 people in planting trees all over. But, in the coastal areas, we are looking into solutions, nature solutions to restore the coastal areas and also the ocean forests. So looking into the mangroves, because this is very close to my heart, I did my PhD on the impacts of temperature in ecosystems, in mangroves, and it was, so many years ago, and when people were not talking about climate change, I was talking about temperature. Basically, the animals that thrive in the mangroves, in the roots, they were cooking. They were cooking after an increase of temperature of 30 degrees. So at that point, well, mangroves are natural bioshields, and they can be sequestering carbon like even 4 times more than land forest. But at that very point that I was telling you, it was a moment in the 90s, it was an expansion of shrimp aquaculture, unsustainable expansion. That was, I think that maybe half of all the mangroves in the world were clear-cut in that moment, and they were all projects funded by the World Bank. So the World Bank thought at that point that the expansion, unsustainable expansion of aquaculture was fine. I was collaborating with the Environmental Defense Fund, and we even have a shrimp tribunal to show them that that was not the right way to go. And people from these communities, from Honduras and from Malaysia. And in Malaysia, 150 people were killed around all these problems related to the called shrimp tribunal. Still, the destruction of the mangroves in the 90s in Asia and in Central America, it was beyond control. Now, we know that the co-benefits of it was only after the tsunami that the World Bank and the world realized that, oh my God, we have clear-cut the mangroves. What we have done with the planet? It was just after where, again, groups like the World Bank were investing in replanting all the mangroves that we have clear-cut in the 90s. So, it's human. We are humans, and we make these errors. But we have to think very well and to listen to the scientists and the groups that in a certain moment say something, and maybe they are right. We have to listen to that. At that moment, all the groups backing up the Environmental Defense Fund, they were like screaming for help to protect these marine forests. So the mangroves not only protect the communities from natural hazards, but they are sources of medicine, food, livelihoods, and they sequester carbon. Something similar with kelp forest. The kelp forest, these are the kelp forests in California, and this is more north, but in Los Angeles, we have lost all these kelp forests in some few years. In this period of time, there is a 80% of kelp canopy reduction due to unsustainable ecosystems management. Oops. And now what we have is this, is all sea urchins that they don't let the kelp forest to attach. So the co-benefits of the kelp forest reforestation, they have many co-benefits, but basically what now we are studying is all the hydrodynamics and the wave attenuation. So it's not just all the benefits of increasing the canopy and reducing acidification, but the wave attenuation, and we are looking into that. We are also looking in coastal restoration and dune systems for disaster risk reduction, but also for reasons of biodiversity conservation. For the first time in 75 years, that bird, the snowy plow, nested in Annenberg, in Santa Monica Beach. So we closed the system, and by closing the system, we have all the biodiversity coming back, and we are recreating the dune systems. So we are doing some work on blue health and looking into the mental health benefits of just walking in these areas that are protected and biodiversity is conserved and is coming back. So we are trying to work in this climate, oceans, and health nexus. Same thing in working with agroforestry in the semi-arid lands in Kenya that I was showing you before. we are getting increased soil moisture, decreased water evaporation, and we are promoting agroforestry, that is growing trees and food, and we are increasing nutrition diversity. So we are looking into keeping traditional knowledge. Those are the oral heaps in Spain. After these floods that they had been in Spain, this area in Alicante was not affected because they have prepared this traditional knowledge and they have these lagoons to allow for the water to accumulate. I just wanted to finish saying that yesterday in the Academia Sinica, they talked about human capital, and what I am very touched is the spiritual capital that Tzu and other groups are bringing by promoting nature solutions that are in line also with the inner of us. So thank you for your inspiration, and yeah.